So now we're going to discuss licensure requirements, and we really have to look at this in two buckets. We have to look at the high school piece and the lower grade levels. And we'll start with the high school piece because it's the one that actually has a licensure requirement. And you know, the thing about it is we have tried to extend extreme flexibility in our licensure. We started the first 2 years by allowing a multitude of existing licensures to offer these courses, to teach these courses. Now as we progress into the initiative, we're really looking at having a more solidified method of identifying the teachers with those skills, which we know in Arkansas through legislation that requires a passing of an exam such as a praxis exam, and in computer science, in fact, we do use a praxis exam. But we still have some flexibility built in through our approval code system, but that's not to say that the praxis is secondary and full endorsement is secondary. Is saying that we are giving some teachers some additional time, some flexibility to move over to that full endorsement. And it's obvious that teachers can do this. Greg, like I mentioned earlier, you know, you're not even teaching in the classroom and you saw a need and a benefit of going ahead and adding it. So what is exactly required? Well, to teach a high school level course, one of our approved level courses, and we created a new subject code for computer science, so if you're not aware of those numbers that we use for course codes, they actually mean something. The second and third digit are the subject category codes. That first digit identifies whether it's an ADE produced course or an outside produced course or lower grade levels, but I won't get into that. So 6.5 subject area is computer sciences. That's a newly created subject area. We did that for flex credit purposes, for licensure purposes, etc. So we can very quickly look at the data on those. The teacher of record for any ADE/Arkansas Career Ed, and I do want to mention that real quickly, all of our computer science courses are co-adopted by both entities. So when people ask me nationally, is computer science an academic or a career education course? My answer is yes. Mm-hmm. And that's because it's both. And that's really, that was one of the things that I was so proud of when you were Deputy Commissioner, that we were able to bring out of our work, was that we broke down that silo in computer science between ADE and career ed, and we just blew it up. We didn't even break it down. We blew it up, and I'm so proud of that. And I think that's paving the way for some other subject areas, and we'll continue to do that collaborative work, which benefits our schools and our students so much.
That's right.
But the licensure requirement for any 465 or 565 course is the 528 computer science endorsement, which is gained by passing the Praxis 5651 exam. There, obviously, we have the ALPs. I'm not going to go into that extensively today. If you have a question about an ALP, either contact my office or the licensure office. But a teacher either has to have the 528, one of our computer science approval codes, predominantly the 5016, which is gained through, you know, it's a temporary code. Let me go ahead and say that. That code is only good through this current revision of courses. If you're teaching on an approval code, temporary approval code, that will expire in the 2021 school year. Okay, that will be the last year you can teach under that approval code. Then every teacher teaching a high school CS course will have to have the full 528 or be on an ALP. So they have to be on one of those three things. I do want to remind individuals that AP and IB courses, Advanced Placement and International Baccalaureate courses, have their own licensure requirements or training requirements. We do have approval codes that we're encouraging teachers to go and get for those. That way we can start identifying which teachers have that training. So even if you have the 528, if you go to AP CSP training, Computer Science Principles training, we want you to send in an approval code application so we can give you that 5017. That way we know we have 200 teachers across the state that are trained in AP CSP. And we're actually looking at some changes at a department level on how we monitor those AP and IB certifications. Specific information about licensure requirements, I go back to that fact sheet. It's in black and white right there, very clear cut, and that's a big section that I always copy out of, cut and paste out of. So with that, I think we're going to go to a video to end this segment, and then we'll come back and see if y'all have any specific questions about licensure. And this goes back to the idea of this video just kind of hits on the idea of promoting CS in general, and it's not only a promotion to students, but it's also a promotion to teachers. and schools, and why we should offer differing levels of computer science options for our students. And I think at least Greg will recognize at least one logo on this video.
Okay.
Since the day I took office, I have promoted computer science education in our schools. The positive response of educators and students has contributed to Arkansas's reputation as a national leader in the worldwide computer science education movement.
I'm excited that I'll be able to take computer science courses next year as a 9th grader. I appreciate that Arkansas requires all high schools to offer at least one computer science course to all students.
My high school goes beyond the state requirements. Our students have access to 2 years of mobile application development courses along with other high-quality computer science content. I'm excited to have a pathway to a future in computer science, whether I'm in the college classroom or the workforce.
Speak to a counselor, career advisor, or industry representative about computer science and career opportunities. Join the Arkansas Can Code movement.
So obviously, we have a variety of things going on around the state, and each school can kind of do their own thing. Bryant was represented on that video, and I know y'all have some very strong programs there at Bryant. Miss Brenda Qualls does a phenomenal job with her students, and she and I have even talked about how changes are going to be implemented for next year. I say quite often that y'all have the misfortune of having my children in your school district, but that also gives me a pulse of things that are happening from a parent perspective, because when I address Bryant School, and I think you'll attest to this, I address as a parent, and that's the role that I serve within that school district, as a parent and an advocate. But we also saw another school in there that's in a completely different situation than Bryant. Bryant has a lot of resources, and I'm very proud of my students to go there, but I'm proud of all our schools across the state. And Cross County may not be in such a good position as some of our schools, either financially or geographically in the state. And I'm not saying anything bad about them, but that's just the nature. But they have went above and beyond those state requirements to make sure that students have access to at least 2 years of mobile application development. That's a big issue, and you notice that student representative was female, and I think that gets back to that approachability question. Computer science with an emphasis in programming or emphasis in networking, those may not be the greatest titles in the world, but maybe mobile applications development, which still has the same standards, just kind of taught in a different way, but that title is so much more approachable from some students, and maybe that female perspective. So I'm just going to stop there, and in this context of requirements, I want to know what questions y'all feel are still out there that need to be addressed more thoroughly, suggestions that y'all may have for how we can get that information out to schools in a more appropriate manner, a more expeditious manner, or just if you want to give feedback, critical feedback on some of the approaches that we're making as a state. That's a nice thing about leading an initiative and being the lead, as a state. We can change things if they're not going right.
That's right.
So I'm going to kick it to y'all just for kind of a conversation on those points.
Well, I just appreciated you mentioning that computer science fact sheet and the fact that is constantly being updated. Coming from a school perspective, things are constantly changing as well. We're looking at shifting our grade arrangements at our high school from going from a 9-12 campus to having an 8th, 9th grade junior high and then a 10-12 campus. So just to clarify, that will mean we're offering computer science. We will need to be offering those computer science courses to meet the requirement at both our junior high, because we have 9th grade there, and then at our high school campus, which will be 10th, 12th. We're going to want to go beyond that, obviously, but that will be a change that we'll need to make sure we plan for and address, having someone who is appropriately licensed or who has gone through the ALP, taking those steps now so that doesn't catch us off guard when we get to that point.
Correct, and great point. That is every year we run a Cycle 2 report on what we call a non-compliance of Act 187 report. That's a long title to basically say that we pull every LEA across the state and we see what was built into their master schedule. Did they build in these courses. We also pull a zero enrollment report that the governor is very interested in to see how many schools have 0 students enrolled in one of these required courses. And he looks through that and has made phone calls based on that report. But that's a very good point, and I get that every year. If you have a separate LEA that has one of these grade levels, 9, 10, 11, or 12, because it also happens on the upper end, sometimes it could just be 11, 12 building. If that LEA has one of those grade levels in it, the legislative requirement, as we've interpreted it at ADE, is that those students in those grades have to have access to one of these courses. Okay. So now it may be that those students, as long as there is a clear-cut access by them walking across the road, so to speak, to the high school campus, I would suggest that schools build that into their student catalog, and that way it's a clear indication to their families and their students, and whenever we pull that report, that you can send me that student catalog and say, this is where we made it available to our students. And guess what? We had 15 ninth graders that elected to walk across the street to take this course. And so that's what, and I think we have similar situations in your schools, correct?
That is correct. And one of the things I appreciate about the department, there are now 13 pathways for licensure. So not just in the field of computer science. If you want to be an Arkansas teacher, there's an appropriate pathway for you. So I think there are wonderful opportunities for those that may not have attended college to be a computer science teacher. With the pathways that we have available, it is possible for you to be a teacher in our wonderful schools in Arkansas. So I'm excited, and I continue to appreciate the Department of Ed for creating those multiple pathways.
Well, thank you. And Karma, I hope she won't mind me bringing this up, but I think Karma has taken advantage of one of our programs to help encourage teachers to get licensed. Do you mind talking a little bit about it, Karma?
Exactly which one?
Do you feel comfortable sharing the information about the stipend?
The stipends, yes, I've received those as well for getting licensure, for teaching the classes, for going to the trainings. I've tried to do all the things, yes, and I was talking about, the superintendents allowing you to go. Mine have absolutely allowed me to go and do and learn and figure out and bring back to my school. And about the fact sheet, I just wanted to say one more thing about that. The big grid that's at the end of that has been a real help when I'm talking to my counselors about, the things that need to get on the selection sheet and the course numbers and all of that. That's been a really big help to them because they all changed at one point. So.
Well, I think that's an important point, and that's where I'd ask teachers to go talk to their counselors and superintendents, everybody. One of the easiest ways to promote CS in your school is to not bury it in your course selection listing. I get so many of those whenever we look at those 0 reports, and I ask them to send me, okay, where was your selection sheet, or can you send me a selection sheet? And it's hard for me to find the computer science offerings, and I know what I'm looking for. What is a parent out there, who doesn't have a computer science background? How are they approaching that, or a student? So just real quickly on before we end this session, I do want to remind our teachers that we do have incentives to go get licensure. It's not just a you have to, it's a we're going to give you some benefits for doing so. And so yes, if you get licensed in computer science, you automatically are eligible for a $300 stipend. Then at a high school level, and we have a K-8 program also, but at a high school level, if you'll teach a course for a year with at least 10 students, you'll get another $1,700 stipend. So a $2,000 stipend for becoming fully endorsed and teaching students. We also will reimburse your $120 praxis fee. So once you pass and take that. Now, real quickly, and the K-8 piece is pretty simple, and I think we may go into this a little bit more in a second, but I said we would mention it. K-8 level, there is no specific requirements in computer science as far as licensure goes. Teacher has to be licensed to be able to teach students in that grade level, but it doesn't have to be in computer science. Now, obviously, that attestation says that the superintendent signs says that if I'm putting a teacher in front of a group of students taking coding block, they have the skills to teach that, but we're not requiring a license from the Department of Ed at this point. But that said, we do have a K-8 lead teacher program that you can find more information on our website about that will give a $2,000 stipend to those K-8 teachers that want to step up, become fully CS endorsed, which any grade level can. They become fully CS endorsed, and then they provide professional development to their local school and teachers a certain level in how to support the embedding of the CS standards within their building, those K-8 standards. So we'll be back shortly with more information, and appreciate y'all's comments.